In the midst of this beautiful cemetery, two Canada geese take a leisurely stroll. Hey everyone, it's Cashew. Today's adventure brings us to Dayton, Ohio, to the Woodland Cemetery and Arboretum. Originally, I was going to just show you a few notable graves, but this place is amazing. Beautiful statuary, celebrities, historical figures. They even have a Gypsy queen. So let's check it out. Our adventure starts here. One of the cool things about going on adventures is that you never know what you're going to encounter. And this is one such instance. This is a monument dedicated to the immortal spirit of Daytonians Orville and Wilbur Wright. Okay, we have a lot of ground to cover today, so I can only give you highlights of some of the people I'm covering. This is the grave of author and humorist Erma Bombeck. Some of you might remember seeing her on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. She started her career here in Dayton. She was a copy girl for the Dayton Herald, and her first published article was an interview with Shirley Temple. Her best known book is If Life is a Bowl of Cherries, What Am I Doing in the Pits? Erma had a liver ailment and was facing a kidney transplant. And in 1996, she was admitted to the hospital in San Francisco for this surgery, and she wound up dying at age 69 from complications. This 29,000-pound rock that you see has become a monument for her grave, and it was brought here by a flatbed truck from her home in Arizona. It's starting to look a little overcast, so let me go show you some of the other graves before I get rained on. This receiving vault was built in 1847. And the purpose of it was to temporarily and securely house the remains of those who could not be immediately buried. So if the ground was too cold to dig the grave, they would be kept here. And the most notable of the occupants here was the Gypsy queen Matilda Stanley. She died in 1878, and her body remained here for 9 months until all Gypsy clans from around the world could attend her service. This is the grave of Johnny Morehouse. He was the youngest son of a local cobbler here in Dayton, and his father's shop was located along the Dayton Canal. And one day while Johnny was playing, he fell into the canal, and his dog jumped in and pulled him out of the water, but unfortunately he had already drowned. Legend has it that several days after the burial, his dog appeared next to his grave, staying by it morning, noon, and night. The monument faithfully details the items that were found in Johnny's pocket when he drowned. There's a top, a ball, a mouth harp, and his cap. On the base of the monument are no dates, just the inscription, "Slumber Sweet." Here's his cap and mouth harp. Look at this. This statue was made in 1860, and the holes in the mouth harp are still clearly seen. This is the grave of Lorenzo Langstroth. He died in 1895. He is considered to be the father of American beekeeping. And as you can see, his grave is hive-shaped. There's Langstroth's grave. And just a short walk over here, and you find the grave of Elisabeth Richter. And she was a well-known madam here in the Dayton area. According to some of the literature I read, her grave is surrounded by some of the prostitutes who worked for her. And there's a lot of unmarked ground around here, so they could be in unmarked graves. The reason I mention Elisabeth Richter's grave is because this statue here on her marker is believed to be the inspiration to Thomas Wolfe's book, Look Homeward, Angel. As I was walking to the next place I want to show you, I came across this grave. Look how beautiful it is. This is the grave of Levi and Matilda Stanley. They were king and queen of the Gypsies. And as you can see, their obelisk is being restored because it was slanting. If you recall from earlier in the vlog, I mentioned the receiving vault she stayed in for 9 months until everyone could come from around the world to pay tribute to her. And they said chiefs from Gypsy clans from America, Canada, and England came to pay tribute to her. In 1878, Matilda died after a 2-year illness in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And her body was embalmed in order to preserve the natural aspect of life. And then she was brought up here to Dayton. I don't know if you can hear the woodpecker pecking away in the background, but this is a really cool place. Matilda was said to have a wonderful faculty of telling fortunes when she pleased, and remarkable powers as a mesmerist. 25 of Matilda's family members are buried here, and this is the grave marker of one of them. I wanted to show it to you just because it had this lamb carved on top of it. It's very nice. At the base of this tree next to Matilda's grave, somebody has left a tribute to her. I guess because they can't get near the obelisk. And they placed it next to the dwelling of a tree critter. Not too far from Matilda's grave are these two markers. And you can tell they're pretty old and they fell. So rather than letting them get destroyed and having unmarked graves, the cemetery did a pretty ingenious thing and just laid them over and embedded them in the ground. As I was leaving Matilda's grave, I found this beautiful sculpture of a lion. Wow, look at this. The angel alone is over 6 feet high. So that gives you an idea of how tall this is. These two brothers really need no introduction. These are the graves of Wilbur and Orville Wright, the Wright brothers. And you can see someone left a tiny airplane as tribute. It's nice to see after all these years, people still leave flowers for the Wright brothers. Not far from the Wright brothers' grave is the grave of Paul Laurence Dunbar, the poet. His mother was a slave and his father was an escaped slave who actually fought for regiments in the Civil War. His mother supported the family by being a housekeeper, and one of the families she worked for was the Wright brothers. And Paul Dunbar was a fellow student of the Wright brothers at Dayton Central High School. When Paul died in 1906, his body was held in the receiving vault that I showed you earlier in the vlog. That's the same vault that Matilda Stanley was held in. And he stayed there until spring and was initially interred in a section near Wyoming Street. And then several community leaders, including Orville Wright himself, made arrangements for Paul to be buried here, not far from the Wright family plot. And in 1909, he was reinterred here, with the arrangements having been made by the Paul Laurence Dunbar Memorial Association. And on his birthday that year, they unveiled the Dunbar Memorial, consisting of a boulder with a simple bronze plaque crafted by Tiffany. And that's what you see here. And here's the grave of his little sister, Elisabeth. I hadn't planned on showing you this, I just happened to drive past it, but this is what I had in mind when I had read that Lorenzo Langstroth's grave marker was in the shape of a beehive. Last on our tour is the grave of Valentine Winters. He was the founder of Winters Bank of Ohio, and later became Bank One. And he's also the great-great-grandfather of actor and comedian Jonathan Winters. As you can tell, this is an impressive cemetery. Lots of beautiful statuary. They have other notable graves here as well. For example, they have the founder of the Yellow Pages, as well as the inventor of the folding stepladder. So if you're ever in the Dayton area, check this cemetery out. Maybe you could find it in the Yellow Pages. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And if you're already subscribed and you have a friend who would like our adventures, have them join us. Until next time, everybody, this is Cashew signing off. As a word of warning, if you come to this cemetery looking for the graves I've showed you, or if you're here to do genealogy, be aware that the cemetery will only show you the location of 2 graves because they have such high traffic and many requests. They do, however, have an app for your phone, and they do have a map for the more notable graves. So keep that in mind if you come down here.